Diante, we are back. People listen to our podcast, bro. Can you believe it?
I was pretty nervous to begin with. I wasn't expecting anybody to listen. So the fact that, how many people listen? I don't even know. A lot of people listen, and I'm pretty
Much
happy
more
with
than
the
we were
results.
expecting. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
happy with the results too, man. And we're back for episode 2. Let's get started. So there's a couple new things for this episode 2 of the Unnamed Podcast. First of all, that's what we're calling it, the Unnamed Podcast. We have introduced a new round called the Lightning Round. We're going to try to talk about as many things as we can in 2 minutes. So bear with us. But we're going to try to answer all these questions / topics 2 minutes. So here we go. So our first one is soda versus pop. Diante, what do you got?
Soda.
Soda. Okay,
Soda
that's
pop.
interesting. Soda pop. So you say both. Okay. Most Ohioans, for our listeners outside of Ohio, say pop. So to us, that is the correct way of saying it. Diante says soda pop. So he is the anomaly. Our next one, movie versus books. Diante, what do you got?
Movies all day, boy.
Movies. I used to be a reader back in the day, not so much now. Thank you for that question. Resort versus camping. Diante.
Camping.
Camping. Okay. Not big. I'm not a big fan of camping myself. I definitely prefer resorts. Thank you for
Well,
that
I get
question.
like a normal toilet, right? As long as I have a normal toilet, I'm good.
Not always in camping. You may have to use the wilderness as your toilet. So,
Can I bring toilet paper?
sure. Yeah.
Okay, yes. Camping.
Okay. Our next one, dogs versus cats. Deontay.
Dog.
Yeah, I'd have to go with dogs too. I have both. My dog and I are much closer than I am with my cat, but I like my cat. Our next one, what color is your toothbrush?
I just picked the first one that I see.
I really hope you're joking because that is terrifying. Mine is mint green. Deontay's is apparently whatever color he sees first, but we're going to pretend that that was a joke. We have 10 seconds. Favorite ice cream flavor? Go.
Raspberry.
Cookies and cream. Okay, boom. That's 2 minutes. We did it. That is the lightning round, friends. Thank you to everyone that sent in a question or comment for our lightning round. I apologize for Deontay's his statements that are questionable in regards to his toothbrush. We are going to pretend that my friend was joking, and I think he was. He's a joker. Deontay, were you joking?
I will neither confirm nor deny.
Yeah. Okay, that's concerning. Moving on to our topics. We got 4 topics for you guys today. So our first topic is our funniest injuries.
It didn't send me to the hospital or anything, but I was in my single digits. I was pretty young.
Mm-hmm.
I would consider myself a daredevil back then.
Oh no.
So I was always on my bike, and I do like those little deep turns, like I was like a motorcycle racer or whatever. So it just rained, and the pavement is fresh with
Right.
that new rain, all soggy and wet. So I decided to go out speeding like I was fast and furious, and I went to go turn, and I slid off my bike. Thankfully, I had my helmet, but I busted
Yeah.
my head on the
Oh.
ground, and I just let out the biggest scream that you ever heard. It was just crazy. I was in so much pain. So I took off my helmet, and my parents took me back home. Within like 20 minutes, I had this big, meaty knot on my head. Yeah, it was terrible.
It's
That knocked
funny.
out the daredevil spirit in me
Knock it
temporarily.
right out of your head.
Yeah, for like 2 weeks, and then I was back at it again. So
Well, that was very mature of you to, not be a daredevil for 2 weeks.
yes,
That shows maturity at a young age, my friend.
yes.
So, there was once upon a time, young Garrett was on a camping trip. Maybe this goes back to why I don't like camping. Interesting. But yeah, so my family was camping at a friend's camper. We were in a tent, and I had to go back to the tent for something. So little Garrett walked to the tent. He went in the tent with his shoes on. This is an important part of this story. I had my shoes on, so remember this. So I'm in my tent doing whatever I needed to do, and my mom came up to the tent, and she said, "Garrett, why do you have your shoes on in the tent?" And I mean, I'm a child. You know that how that works, Deontay. You're a kid. You don't think about taking your shoes off when you go in places.
I mean, not in a tent, of course.
Yeah, you're out in
I
the
wouldn't think that's a
wilderness.
big deal.
You're out in the wilderness. I mean, dirt's gonna get in places. That's just how it works. That's what was going through Tiny Garrett's mind. So I walked into the tent, got my stuff. Mom tells me to get out of the tent because I have dirt on my shoes. I'm getting the tent dirty. So I listen. I get out of the tent. But while getting out of the tent, I trip on a root and my knee landed on the tent stake, the metal tent stake. So, of course, I have a giant gash in my knee and I'm bleeding and I can see all the nastiness on my knee. And I wasn't crying. That's the interesting part. I was not crying. It didn't hurt too horribly bad. And I was okay. I had a big gash in my knee, but I didn't really care that much. But then all of a sudden, I look at my leg and I see a daddy long leg on my shin. And I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with the daddy long leg being on my shin. Deontay, you know what I'm saying? I don't want a bug
That's
on me.
pretty wild. I hate spiders, so
Yeah.
that's
So
pretty
there's
nasty.
I know they're not technically spiders, but to my little Garrett mind, that's a spider. So it's
I
on
thought
my
that was a
leg.
spider.
No, I don't think they're spiders.
Huh.
It might. I
Interesting.
don't think they technically are. But anyway, there's what me and Deontay consider a spider on my leg. And that, my friends, is what put me over the tipping point. A spider on my leg. So of course I lost it. I started crying uncontrollably. And that's my funniest injury. I've had quite a few injuries. I've never broken a bone, but I've cut myself a lot, falling down, tripping, stuff like that. But yeah, those are our funniest injuries. So thank you for that question. Our next one is kitchen fails. Now, I am not much of a cooker. Deontay, you cook. That's one of the things
Here
you're
and there,
good
here
at.
and
Here
there.
and there. Well, here and there is much more than me doing nothing. I'm not a cooker. I can make a couple things, but nothing serious. Deontay, what is your biggest kitchen fail?
I'd say the most hurtful one when I was about, I think, 12 years old. So I have like this quarter pound of bacon, thick, juicy bacon.
Mm.
And I was home alone. So I was like, whenever my mom cooks this bacon in the oven, it slaps. So I was like, you know what, let me try it out. Let me try out this oven bacon. So I turn on the oven to about 500 degrees. It's pretty up there. So I throw all this quarter pound of bacon in the oven, and I just start cooking it. I didn't set a timer, but I think it was like 5 minutes. The bacon was cooked. 5 more minutes, the bacon was crispy, and it just kept on going and going. So the bacon turned to charcoal, and I smoked up the entire house, and it was just awful. I pulled out the bacon, the fire alarm's going off, and I was like, dang it, this bacon is toast. It's burnt. I was like, well, it's bacon. I ain't gonna just waste this. So I grabbed that bacon. I bite into it. It was awful. It was the worst thing ever. I was so hurt when I had to throw that bacon in the trash. I
Oh,
want to say I cried. I was just so hurt.
that's no joking matter, man.
Yeah.
That's depressing. What did your mom say about that?
I honestly don't remember.
She
Um,
slapped it right out of you.
yeah. I never burnt bacon again.
There
We'll
you
leave it at
go.
that.
Never burned it again. Yeah, mine's very similar to yours. When I was about 12, 13 years old, I decided that I was going to make cookies. Now, normally at that age, my mom made cookies, so I was not very experienced. In fact, I think this was the first time I'd ever made cookies on my own, which is kind of sad. I was 13 years old. I should probably know how to make cookies, but I didn't. So I decided to make cookies. My mom wasn't there at the time, and I put the cookies in the oven. I, for whatever reason, decided that I didn't need to look at the instructions. I was just going to throw them in the oven, and they were going to become cookies. So I put the little cubes of cookie dough in the oven. I turned the oven on to broil because that's how you cook cookies, Deontay. You broil them to a crisp and they become cookies.
Yeah, I think
So
he just wanted the cookies quicker than what
I,
they were supposed to come out.
who knows what was going on in my mind, but I'm broiling these cookies. I walk away. I don't set a timer. What are timers for? I don't need a timer. I'm
You
broiling
just
the
smell it
cookies.
and you know it's good.
Right. You have this inner feeling when a cookie is done. That's what 13-year-old Garrett's thinking. So I put the cookies in the oven, got them on broil. Life is good. I walk out of the kitchen. About 5 or 10 minutes later, the entire kitchen is full of smoke because you don't broil cookies. And the cookies were completely charred on the top and mush underneath. So my dad comes into the kitchen. He's like, Garrett, why in the world did you just try to broil cookies? Like, can you hear my dad saying that? He was so disappointed in his son. His son just tried to broil cookies.
I was, I mean, I'm honestly surprised that's his reaction. I was expecting
He's
a little something more heated.
no, my dad doesn't really get heated, but he comes in the kitchen. He's like, "You broiled cookies." And I'm like, "Isn't that how you make cookies?" And he's like, "No, no, that is not how you make cookies." So he tried to repair the cookies, like scrape off the top of the
Ew.
of the burnt mess and put them back in at a normal temperature. It didn't work. Those cookies were toasted. Much like bacon, your bacon story, I tried to choke them down, but they were just gross. They basically tasted like the inside of an oven, which is not a good taste. So yeah,
Ew.
moral of the story, friends, don't broil cookies. That is not how you make them. Follow the directions, put them in for a certain amount of time, and then your cookies will be delicious.
Don't leave your kids unattended in the kitchen.
Yeah, don't leave your stupid 13-year-old unattended with cookies in an oven. But yeah, very good. Thank you for that question. Very nice. We definitely have had some kitchen fails. So our next topic that we got suggested, Diante, is another really good one. Thank you for all these great topic suggestions. Crazy dreams. Now, I think we have all had crazy dreams. Ones where you wake up and you're like, what did I eat before I went to bed? Deontay, have you experienced that?
It's very rare that I do, but when I do, you know, I want some more of whatever I had. The most
Right.
memorable one I've had was it was crazy. The butterfly spider.
Oh yeah,
And
I've heard this one.
this is a really trippy one. So to say the least, so it's about this tarantula. His name is Scott, and he is an estranged tarantula. His parents were killed at his birth. They were stomped upon by humans. So he wants to seek revenge, but he's just a little tarantula. What can he do? To make a long story short, he becomes subject to a chemical. We'll say chemical X, and he becomes the butterfly spider, a mutant butterfly spider, and he gets as big as a gorilla,
Oh, okay.
and he just goes on this rampage, and he goes after the people with the biggest foreheads, taking them out of the game of life, and he's controlled by a 6-year-old, and together they fight crime.
Wow.
That's just a butterfly spider.
Yeah, you ate something before you went to sleep that night. Peanut
Yeah, I need some more of
butter.
that.
I mean, that sounds like a movie almost. The butterfly spider. Sounds like one of those 50s monster movies. The butterflies. That's intense. I will
Would
give
you
you
watch
that.
this movie, G?
Would I watch that? Absolutely, I'd watch that. But I don't know if that's a compliment because, I don't mind if a movie's dumb.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Good. If you take that as a compliment, great. That we'll go with that. For me, crazy dreams, same as you. I don't wake up very often and remember my dreams. We probably have crazy dreams every night, but the problem is we wake up and we don't remember them. So, but one I can remember, it was, I must have been in like a science fiction mood watching a bunch of science fiction movies and TV shows at this time. But my dream was called The Mold Men. And basically, the gist of the dream was there was these weird, like, patches of mold growing in all the houses across America. And at first we were just like, oh, we got mold in our kitchen. This was my house. We have mold in our kitchen. We should probably clean that up. So we clean it up. Like 10 seconds later, the mold comes back. And we're like, what in the world is this mold? Why does it keep coming back? We just cleaned it. Well, eventually the mold turns into like alien mold men. And they're like running around my neighborhood causing terror. And like if they touch you, you turn into a mold man too. So it kind of got crazier, but for the sake of time, I will keep it to that.
That
I wish,
strangely reminds me of that one episode of SpongeBob. I don't remember what it's called, but like when they kept on scratching and it just like kept getting worse.
yeah, it was like something from Gary, right? Like the snail fever or something.
Yeah, that was
Yeah, you
that's
know,
from that reminds me of your dream.
yeah, it was similar to that. Yeah, that was probably the craziest dream I've had. And there was a point in time during the dream where I was being chased by one of the mold men. And you know how when you're having an intense dream and you're getting chased, like you can't run fast. Like you're just trying so hard and you're jogging and you're trying to sprint and you're just going like half a mile an hour. And you're like,
Oh,
I'm going to get
that's the
caught, but I
worst.
can't run. So that was happening at one point. So thank you to our listener that sent that in for giving me PTSD.
Oh,
But that was good. Thank you for that. So our last one is to solve a riddle. We got suggested this, and to be completely honest, I am not a riddle solver. Diante, are you a riddle solver?
um, to answer that question, no, I don't like to use my brain, but I will attempt this on this one occasion.
We want to find the answer to this riddle, but like I said, there's about a 12% chance of that happening. So for our listeners, we'll read you the riddle. We may not find the answer, but please feel free to look it up and let us know. But we'll give it our best shot. So the riddle is: a farmer needs to take a fox, a chicken, and a sack of grain across the river. The only way across the river is by a small boat, which can only hold the farmer and one of the three items. Left unsupervised, the chicken will eat the grain, and the fox will eat the chicken. That makes sense. However, the fox won't try to eat the grain, and neither the fox nor the chicken will wander off. How does the farmer get everything across the river? So right off the bat, I am confused. Thank you to our listener for sending this in. Diante, do you have any thoughts on how the farmer gets everything across the river?
Well, the farmer whacks the chicken and he stuffs it in his shirt, and then he will take the grain across the river, and then he can leave the chicken with the grain because the chicken won't eat the grain, and he can go back and get the fox.
No, the chicken will eat the grain.
But he whacked the chicken, so the
Oh,
chicken
so the
can't eat
chicken's
the
knocked
grain.
out.
No, well, sure.
Oh,
I was
you
thinking he just
okay.
offed them, but whichever works.
Okay. I was thinking knocked out. I must have a more childish brain. So that's Deontay's answer. Now, the person that sent this in gave us a clue. Just remember, not everything has to stay across the river. And that just confuses me more. So thank you for the hint that confused us to a higher degree. Like me and Deontay even talked about this before we started recording, and we couldn't figure it out. So my thinking is, why can't the farmer just come back and forth and take everything one at a time, so that
Oh,
so that the
that's a good
chicken doesn't
option.
eat the grain, the fox doesn't eat the chicken, and then
Um,
so to me that answers the question. Now I'm sure that's not right, because that's, I don't know, too logical. Usually the answers to riddles are like, are you kidding me? That's the answer. Why didn't I think of that? So I don't think that's right. Deontay has a look on his face like he is contemplating the meaning of life. But thank you for sending in a riddle and making us use our brains. You don't get to do that much during quarantine, so thank you. Our brains are a little dusty, but yeah, that was great. So that's our podcast for this week. We thank you very much for listening.
Big shout out to Madeline.
Yes, Madeline Little.
Yes.
Madeline is the amazing artist behind our new podcast cover. But thank you so much, Madeline. You're a great artist. We thank you so much for that. If any of you need art or want art, definitely look her up on Instagram. And yeah, thank you so much, Madeline. We appreciate it. But that is our podcast for this week. Make sure you send in questions and topics. And Deontay, you got anything you want to say?
Thanks to all the real ones out there that
man.
kick it with us on Saturday evening on the Unnamed Podcast.
Yeah.
My name is Diante Melton.
And my name's Garrett Barth.
And this is the Unnamed Podcast.